There is, in fact, more to Star Trek than meets the eye. George Takei is not only around today initializing things, he also starred with John Wayne in the weirdest movie ever made, The Green Berets. Star Trek also featured Herman Goldwyn's widow's estate attorney who beamed down from Star Trek the episode in the children's show lead to represent Jack Ruby, who had the same, by the way, psychiatrist as Charlie Manson, who probably knew Bernard Watmaker, the man who tortured me, from Manson Cinema, a snuff film syndicate that has been bumping off Kennedys in broad daylight with the help of Jay Inslee and Cyril Wecht. So it's pretty weird. It's not just sinister, it's profoundly weird in the United States of America. Profoundly disturbing. But it is possible to fathom the glee in the face of Bernie Slanders and Noam Chomsky when they speak of existential threats. It means they're going to pull it off. Revenge for Auschwitz and Hiroshima. So when we look at Star Trek, what does that have to do with this? There was a Vulcan ship named the Intrepid. And when the Intrepid was destroyed, they left behind a memory that um, Spock was able to detect. He said, all I sensed was this profound astonishment. You see, when Marx talked about dehumanization of capital, he said that people had in the foreground their performance value as labor for money. You know, they were paid for their work. In the background, they were human beings. Joseph Goebbels, who we know from the Society for Human Ecology, run by the CIA in Maine, is now the darling of the Jewish Defense League. In those days, back in the 40s, when he was alive, in more ways than one, I mean, not just spiritually as a Casper of John Lennon, but in real life, he stripped Jewish people of the background text of their humanity and called them merchandise. And Claude Salzman described in a segment about Simon Schrebeck that in Poland concentration camp that the Jewish women would put on their makeup as they approached the gas chambers. They, like the Vulcans on the Intrepid, were greeted by absolute astonishment. For years, I've wondered what was so significant about the nature of reality at Pitt. Well, I knew they had tortured me and kidnapped me and stolen cars, but that was, I was assured, the Uvalde, I mean, provincial norm of Allegheny County. I knew that they finally caught John Schulman, $8 million museum heist that implicated Trump and Jaime Carmenel, Neva Corporation. I knew they were running pornographic genocide maneuvers, but that was the Uvalde, provincial norm of Allegheny County. I knew that Trump and Peter Gabriel were working with Schulman, but that was the Uvalde, I mean, provincial norm of Allegheny County. When the Fernhollow Bridge collapsed, a bus went down with it. There have been warning safety signs on those bridges for decades. You can barely walk across the Highland Park Bridge. There's so many holes. You can drop down on the sidewalk. Well, that's the Uvalde, I mean, the provincial norm of Allegheny County. I knew all this was the nature of reality, but for some reason, they would always smirk when they talked about the nature of reality. Eisenstadt, Nordenberg, Kirchner, you know, the Uvalde norm, I mean, the provincial norm of Allegheny County, they were always smirking when they said the nature of reality. So it struck me with a bit of astonishment when I learned through the Crow Hag Register Corona or Octopus of Media that what they were actually talking about, endorsed by Licky Chops in Seattle, Washington, and UW Dialectical, is genocide for charity. They're going to collect the divvies and then dole them out to some. Yay, get some Licky Chops divvies. And this was not this was the norm that was being established with the blood money of the so-called stimulus payments we got with COVID. Now, what I propose is that people face up to this and apprehend the Crow-Cag Register Corona and put a stop to this nonsense because this is really very wrong. But the criminal, listen, Spike Oldley, Spike Oldley, he's going to come to the rescue. Spike Oldley to the rescue. Go, Spike Lee, go.